London learned that fear could be priced, packaged, and sold like cargo crossing restless oceans for profit. Insurance transformed danger into numbers, letting investors gamble safely while sailors faced storms beyond any calculation daily. Lloyd's began as a coffeehouse where rumors, losses, and possibilities were traded, along with steaming cups nightly. Soon London discovered risk could finance empires without armies, ships, or soldiers leaving the Thames at all. Policies spread across oceans like invisible sails, promising payment when fate demanded its brutal accounting from London. Merchants financed voyages, knowing failure might still feed them through signatures secured beneath oak beams in silence. Soon everything carried a premium: storms, piracy, war, disease, human life itself converted into predictable course globally. London's brokers became translators of fear, turning whispers into contracts enforceable from Jamaica to Bombay without question. The brilliance was simple: risk no longer destroyed wealth. It generated steady income for its controllers instead. Premiums pooled together formed vast reservoirs of capital, funding docks, factories, railways, and colonial expansion for decades. Those who understood probability turned uncertainty into advantage, disciplining nature with ledgers and actuarial tables in London. Meanwhile, courts enforced every promise, reminding borrowers and captains that contracts survive even when people do not. As empire widened, London insured plantations, railroads, tea shipments, and entire regions against rebellion or weather catastrophe. Risk pricing crept into politics. Rebellions became measurable. Wars became spreadsheets. Tragedies became manageable costs for investors. Insurance reshaped morality. If loss could be compensated, danger seemed tolerable, even strangely profitable for some invisibly. Britain exported this logic alongside language and law, embedding financial protection inside the structure of empire everywhere. At Lloyd's, underwriters signed their names beneath risks, staking fortunes against storms and unforeseen disaster with pride. Each signature formed a human chain of accountability, binding strangers together by ink and shared exposure globally. London turned uncertainty into a marketplace, where courage and caution finally discovered a price they could negotiate. From shipping to life insurance, from fire to finance, everything could be covered if premiums were sufficient. But insurance also carried shadow costs, rewarding caution sometimes, while tempting others toward greater reckless speculation everywhere. Some investors took bigger baits, believing losses could be absorbed elsewhere through clever structuring and pooled reserves. Thus risk migrated, never disappearing, only changing form, while London counted calmly from behind polished desks daily. Crises revealed these hidden connections when claims surged, testing whether reserves matched the promises sold worldwide faithfully. After disasters, inquiries followed, yet London usually emerged strengthened, wiser, and more central than before once again. Each catastrophe trained the risk machine to calculate further, layering new clauses across older contracts quietly worldwide. By the 20th century, insurance touched aviation, oil, skyscrapers, shipping, banking, and every imaginable commercial dream globally. London had become chief engineer of risk, measuring possibility so precisely that others mistook it for safety. Yet true safety never existed, only confidence, and confidence could evaporate faster than any burning warehouse overnight. When markets panicked, claims soared like waves, and insurers realized models rarely capture human behavior completely anywhere. Still, the system survived, because London paid when others hesitated, preserving faith in the risk machine itself. That faith became its greatest asset, compounding across generations, like interest quietly accumulating within hidden vaults forever. Insurance influenced politics too, because governments feared losing coverage for critical infrastructure or overseas trade routes entirely. Diplomacy sometimes followed premiums, rather than ideology, with London positioned discreetly between competing national interests for advantage. Wherever money moved, insurance followed, documenting risk so thoroughly that maps of coverage mirrored Empire almost perfectly. In return, Empire protected trade routes, ports, and courts, ensuring contracts remained enforceable far from London properly. Eventually, entire industries formed around specialized risks, satellites, cyber attacks, climate catastrophe, even celebrity reputations ensured in London. London kept its throne by remaining neutral host, interpreter, and judge whenever risk sought a price there. Clients returned because reputation cannot be coded easily. It must be accumulated through patience, memory, and consequence. Thus the risk machine continued humming, invisible yet immense, shaping global finance through the promise of compensation. But the risk machine also created moral puzzles that shadowed London through every century of expansion slowly. If danger could be priced and transferred, who truly carried responsibility when catastrophe finally arrived unexpectedly somewhere? Victims received payment, yet nothing erased suffering, while faraway investors measured loss inside tidy ledgers quietly. Insurance civilized risk, but sometimes it also normalized tragedy by turning survival into predictable financial outcome globally. Reinsurers expanded the system, insuring insurers so no single disaster could break the network completely at once. Risk passed upward through layers until it reached vast pools of capital managed quietly within London itself. This architecture reduced volatility for individuals while concentrating hidden fragility inside enormous institutions, rarely understood entirely worldwide. Confidence depended on every link honoring commitments, because one broken promise could ripple across oceans in minutes. Major wars tested the risk machine, as navies, factories, and shipping lanes demanded unprecedented coverage from London. Underwriters priced torpedoes, blockades, air raids, and rationing, attempting to quantify chaos with disciplined mathematics in London. When peace returned, London emerged stronger, having proven insurance could survive conflict and rebuild shattered economies worldwide. Risk had become permanent companion to progress, a course accepted silently alongside modern infrastructure and ambition everywhere. In recent decades, financial derivatives allowed traders to separate risk completely from the underlying assets themselves entirely. Credit default swaps insured loans, interest futures hedged borrowing costs, and catastrophe bonds securitized hurricanes for investors. The risk machine left the docks and entered servers, guided by models built from historical data assumptions. But models cannot feel panic, and panic always returns, challenging every neat equation during global turbulence eventually. Climate change intensifies uncertainty, creating new categories of risk that defy previous actuarial comfort worldwide for insurers. Rising seas, stronger storms, and drought reshape geography, forcing London to rethink how it prices vulnerability today. Some regions may eventually become uninsurable, not because disaster is certain, but because concentration risk overwhelms capacity. Governments then intervene, proving the risk machine always relies on political backstops when probability exceeds tolerance levels. Insurance also shapes behavior, rewarding safety investments while occasionally encouraging complacency in boardrooms insulated from consequences elsewhere. Premium levels become silent regulators, guiding corporate decisions and even national infrastructure planning through subtle financial signals. Thus, the risk machine becomes policymaker, influencing society while remaining technically private industry accountable to shareholders alone. London manages this paradox with calm professionalism, presenting power as service rather than dominance before global clients. Scandals and fraud occasionally pierce the illusion of perfection, reminding everyone that greed still walks beside caution. Yet each scandal leads to reform, strengthening oversight while deepening dependence on the risk machine itself further. Because abandoning insurance would mean confronting raw uncertainty again, something modern societies no longer tolerate comfortably anymore. So they repair the system instead, promising transparency while continuing to price fear through London's experienced hands. Today the risk machine operates across continents, embedded in trade, travel, health, technology, and everyday life everywhere. Premiums flow like quiet rivers into London, forming reservoirs of capital that fund ventures and rescue missions. Behind every aircraft takeoff, hospital expansion, or shipping departure stands an invisible contract negotiated somewhere within London. Wherever risk exists, London appears soon after, offering terms, premiums, reassurance, and a carefully worded contract instead. The city's power lies not in eliminating danger, but in organizing responses before disaster becomes chaos entirely. That organization becomes addictive, making uncertainty feel manageable, and encouraging further expansion into riskier frontiers worldwide continually. Thus insurance fuels ambition, and ambition feeds insurance, forming a loop that constantly strengthens London's position globally. The risk machine keeps turning, quiet and relentless, measuring the price of every dream the world chases. In the end, London's genius was simple: replace fear with contracts, and people will keep building confidently. As long as claims are honored, the risk machine will maintain legitimacy despite controversy, crisis, and outrage. Britain may no longer rule territory, yet it still manages risk for much of the planet daily. And wherever risk is measured, a quiet thread leads back through history to London's insurance tables today. If this story changed how you see fear transformed into profits through London's patient financial engineering today, remember, the world rarely abolishes risk. It simply decides who earns money for carrying it quietly instead. Subscribe for more untold histories where numbers, psychology, and power intertwine beneath the surface of global finance, because the next crisis may already be priced, and London is still selling protection to everyone today.